Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to another Marvel Unmatched. This is for Hell's Kitchen. So it's very interesting about this one is because we're getting the first and only true villain of the Marvel sets. We have some of the other kind of guys we consider vigilantes or anti-heroes like Moon Knight and Deadpool, maybe even the Winter Soldier at times. But Bullseye is the only actual full-on villain. I would even classify Elektra though, especially for how they have her in this set, is kind of being in the middle. She's kind of half, because sometimes she's a force of good, sometimes she's a force of bad. Kind of the justification if she's trying to do good. Then of course we have good old Daredevil at the top. So we have our three characters from Hell's Kitchen, which are cool. I don't know who else you would have put necessarily in Hell's Kitchen, though, to go with Elektra and Daredevil. Otherwise, to make sense. Because obviously the only other big person who would fit with those two would have been Kingpin. And that would have been an interesting thing just as well. But I guess, again, I would have said, would he really ever been considered necessarily a hero or even an anti-hero? He's typically always a villain. Yes, we go hop into this. We have a couple different things. Elektra's the only one with sidekicks, but they're going to work a little bit differently than our normal sidekicks. So if we hop into the rule book, there's usually all the stuff is the same as the other game. So you can always check out the base game video if you want to see more about that. So I'm not going to go into too much of all that. So I don't think there's any extra different setup. If you're new to Marvel, but not to the rest of the Unmatched universe, all the rules are the exact same as the other ones. We have our our Steam cards, our attack cards with Versatile, attacking, defeating guys, winning the game. All that stuff stays the same. So I'm not going to go through all that. We do have their special abilities, which we'll talk about when we get there. And then we'll have battlefield items. This is something that Marvel does I don't believe is in any of the other games. It might be. They might have added them later, but as of the time, they weren't in there, so we'll definitely look at that. So before we hop into the actual characters, let's look at our board first. Just so we can kind of see what we're playing. So we have Hell's Kitchen, of course, which is a part of New York City. It's just a different area. Now, one thing that's definitely cool about these is when they have some references to the comic book stuff, but I get they can't have every single thing because they're kind of trying to keep it looking accurate. And what I mean by that is we do have a little east. Well, first, let's look at the map first. So we have this area up here. It's like a little junkyard up here. So we have that in the gray. And then we can come into kind of like the center street area with the little roundabout. Then down here we have a construction quarry. So you get that like in the purple. We have the light blue, which is in the middle. We have this building, like apartment building here, which is probably Matt Murdock's apartment building. I would imagine that's what they're going for. Back alley over here, and then a back alley on this side. And then the back alley is kind of like mixed together a little bit. And then the building has it's like kind of everything. There's not a lot of just buildings. So the building's like your most unsafe or maybe most strategic point out of all of them. But yeah, so some of the little things they have in here is they have like the Fisk truck for Wilson Fisk. Then they have the poster for Nelson and Murdock, which is Daredevil's lawyer agency. But yeah, like if they could have had more stuff, they might have had something linking like maybe because I don't think they had it for the one, but they could have tried to have like the Heroes for Hire building to link into like Luke Cage and Iron Fist and stuff, or they could have had Fogwell's Gym, which is where Daredevil's dad trained and stuff, or a Catholic church on here to represent Daredevil's Catholicism. But again, it wouldn't have made sense in the structure of the world, so it's kind of why I'm glad they didn't do it. Of course, we have side one, and then we have the little battlefield symbols. So you have 3 for attack, 3 for combat or steams, and then 3 for attack defense. And if we flip to the other side of the board, it's the exact same board, but in case you want to play it without the big obstructing colored blocks in there, just a little circle rings, you can definitely do that. Kind of like that. It's a neat way to be able to have one side where you're playing with like maybe like the first couple of times you're playing or a teaching game, so you can easily tell which one. And then you can kind of play with one where it's a little bit more open, shows off the artwork a little bit better. But I don't even think this necessarily like takes away from the game at all. Because of the way they have everything, they made sure like there wasn't any major things obstructing it, and if there was stuff like this, crane still goes over it and things like that. So very cool. So that's our map. So yeah, if I kind of just flip back into this, yeah, if you want to kind of get across there, you have roundabout will take you up, can take you down. The only way to get to the building, though, is by coming around one of the two sides. You can't jump from it from this side, but then going taking this street will kind of get you a little bit both ways. So no, like, really trapped areas. Obviously, you can go like this and around, and then you can go this way. So a little bit different there. And then this back alley can kind of get a little tricky if you get shoved back or you get hiding back here. Someone has to come from one of the sides. They can't jump off the building in the same direction. Even similar, kind of the building gets in here this way. But very cool. Alright, so then we have our characters themselves. Let's drop our camera back down. First up, we have good old Daredevil. We'll start with our main hero. And for non-Marvel fans that are checking this out, of course, Daredevil's big thing is he's a blind lawyer who fights for justice, but he has sonar sense. So you can still kind of see actually even better, maybe. You can't see, like, maybe exact, sometimes details, but you can see pretty well. There's his miniature. He wields around his billy clubs. He throws it around strings so you can sometimes, like, bring them back to him. Little sewer on the bottom there. Alright, let's look at his cards. So there's our reference card, of course. On the back side, we have melee attacking. He has a starting health of 17. He has 3 move. During combat, if you have 2 or fewer cards in your hand, you may blind boost your attack or defense. If you have other during combat effects, choose the order. Fear can overcome, but you will have to be the will. So his blind boost ability here says an effect to cause the blind boost. Reveal the top card of your deck and add its boost value, then discard it. A blind boost does not count as drawing a card for other effects, such as taking damage when you're exhausted. If you draw piles empty, the blind boost value is treated as 0. Bullseye attacks Daredevil, a son of a boxer, and is defending. Bullseye attacks Daredevil, who plays Son of a Boxer as his defense card, and now has 2 cards in his hand. His special ability lets him blind boost the defense. He reveals the top card of his deck, which is Paint, with a boost of 1. Places Paint as discard pile, now the defense value is 4. Why is it 4? Oh, because his defense value is 3. Sorry, I was looking at the boost cost. Yep, never mind. So yeah, they're a little bit different. So he has basically a way to gain, he can do a lot more blind boosting. So it says, yeah, if you have 2 or fewer cards in your hand, you can do blind boost. So he can boost his defense, or his attack cards a lot more, but he doesn't know what he's gaining bonuses from. So it's kind of an interesting mechanic. So you can do it more often, but it's going to be a little bit more random. Alright, what cards does he have? So we have 2 copies, and like always, they tell you in the bottom corner how many we have, of Man Without Fear. So attack of 2. During combat, you may blind boost this attack. This is in addition to any blind boost from his special ability, so you can double blind boost it. That's kind of cool. We have 3 Sons of a Boxer. This is a defensive 3. After combat, if you lost the combat, deal 2 damage to a fighter adjacent to Daredevil. So if a guy's meleeing you, you can at least lose. You might choose to opt to not blind boost this one, just because that way you know if you're going to lose, you can at least do 2 damage to them if you can afford it. We have 2 The Devil of Hell Stitching, 4 attack. During combat, if you have no cards in your deck, the value of this card is 8 instead. Ooh, so blind boost is going to really boost this up quicker because you can discard more cards from your deck faster. After combat, shuffle this card into the top 4 cards of your discard pile into your deck. Oh, that's nuts. So, okay, so after you play this, then you immediately shuffle this into the top, and the top 4 cards of your discard pile into your deck. And And if you had no cards out, so now you know you're going to keep getting this over and over. So as long as you don't have some way of redrawing, you could be playing this very, very often. Very cool. We have 3 copies of Grappling Hook, which is a versatile 3. After combat, move Daredevil up to 2 spaces. This makes sense. There's a lot of after combat. So after combat, he can assess the situation and do extra stuff. And then during combat, he can do his blind boost. 3 copies of Take a Knee. A versatile of 3. After combat, discard the top card of your deck. Recover health equal to its boost value. Ooh, a health recovery. That's fun. Drop these down for a sec. We have 3 copies of Breather, which is a steam. Choose an attack, defense, or a versatile card from your discard pile and return it to your hand. Oh, this could be very helpful for your blind boost. So if you discard something you really needed, this would be a way to get it back, which is a great mechanic. We have 3 copies of Through Adversity. It's another steam. Move Daredevil up to 4 spaces. He may move through opposing fighters, deal 1 damage to each opposing fighter Daredevil moves through. So this could be great, especially if you're fighting henchmen or minions. You could jump through them quicker. And then finally, we have 3 copies of Feint, which is like one of them cards. It's like a staple in most decks. This is a 2 versatile. Immediately cancel all effects on your opponent's card. So you can shut down whatever your opponent's trying to do. It's very, very cool. A very interesting mechanics. And then here's his dial. It's kind of like the radar sense going out, and then his billy clubs. Nice. Alright, let's take a look at Elektra. Elektra Noxious. And the hand. So she gets the hand as her backup. And we'll throw this on there. So she has a couple neat mechanics. So she has a melee with only 7 health. You might be like, ooh, that's pretty low. Because she has, for the first time Elektra would be defeated, remove her and all hand from the board. She is not defeated. At the start of your next turn, resurrect her. She has a special ability, the Bloody Hand. It says, ignore effects with this symbol. And she only has 2 moves. And then the hand are melee, and you have 4 of them. So let's take a look at Elektra first, and then we'll dive into her ability a little bit more. Oops. So we have Elektra Noxious. Okay, I cannot apparently hold on to this, which is why I usually use my little grabber, but I don't feel like looking for it right now. The wash on these really helps make them stand out. I don't know why she has a 3rd side down there. Would have been less cool if it was like a billy club. Like she was, or a throwing star like Bullseye. If she knocked Bullseye's things away or something, that would have been kind of cool. And then her minions are if she gets 4 hand tokens. So little hand ninjas. You can see a little ninja on there with like a red bandana. They have like swords in the back, so they're double-sided. They're a little bit thicker tokens. But yeah, she has 4 hand ninjas, which each just have a single health point. They don't get additional health. Because they're just little 1 single guys. That's why they don't have an extra dial. So what does Resurrection do? So, if we look at her Resurrection. So, Elektra's health dial has 2 sides, a regular side and a resurrection side. At the start of the game, using the regular side, before she resurrects, ignore effects on her cards with the resurrection icon, which is the hand. The first time Elektra be defeated, she resurrects instead. Immediately remove her and all the hand tokens from the board. If she is defeated as a result of combat damage, they are removed before the after combat step. At the start of your next turn, flip the health dial to the resurrection side, set the health to 9. Switch Elektra's character card to Elektra Resurrected. Place Elektra in the hand, in each of the hand in an empty space in different zones. Shuffle your discard pile to create a new deck. After Elektra resurrects, you must resolve the effects of her card with a resurrection icon to be cancelled like other card effects. So here's her dial. So she has her standard dial, which she normally only had 7 health. So if we scooch through this, these dials are sometimes hard to move. She has 7, and after that, it's nothing. So if we flip it all the way around, it starts with her being dead. or and just her being dead. So yeah, so resurrection. So that's kind of neat. They could have just made it like, oh, a full health guy, and then you just change it. But instead, they did it that way. And when you get to that side, if you get to her death and you flip it over, it's now at the 9. Which I think is a very clever way to do that. And then you don't have to like research for it. And then if she gets all the way back down to 0, and it ends. So yes, that was a really cool way of setting this up. So that, yeah, you can just go from one side to the other. And if we started at 7 and you flip to the other side, it's just blank. So that's pretty fun. Then she has her other card, which has the same thing on the back, but she has Elektra Resurrected. So now she has 9 health. So that gives her a total of 16 overall, basically. Still is only her 2 move, but it says when Elektra resurrects, flip your health dial, shuffle your discard pile, place them back on the board in different zones, and now you must resolve her symbols. So she doesn't have an ongoing ability like most other characters do. They gotta do this and do that stuff. She just has, if she dies, she just can come back and do more things. So let's see what her cards do. So we're gonna start with this. We have 2 copies of Psy, just a 4 versatile. We have 2 copies of Intercept. So we're blocking a sword there. It says, so normally, if you're playing this on a regular side, just a 3 defense. Then it says, if she's resurrected, it says, during combat, you may reveal a card named Psy from your hand. If you do, the value of this card is 5 instead. So if you reveal that, hold on to them Psys, you can block more. She's got 2 copies of Mystic Assassin. After combat, Elektra takes 3 damage. If she's been resurrected, she takes no damage instead. It's kind of fun. So it's like big giant 6 cost card, did 6 damage, but she's gonna take damage unless she's been resurrected. She becomes more deadly after she's been resurrected. 2 copies of Whirlwind, a 2 versatile. It says after combat, deal 1 damage to each adjacent opposing fighter. So, for the most part, it looks like she's going to want to die. You almost want to say die as fast as possible, so that way she can use her more powerful attacks. But again, on the other hand, just do as much as you can. Just don't, you can be a little bit more reckless. It's kind of the idea of it. 2 copies of Mesmerize. Choose an opponent to take a look at their hand to gain 1 action. If you've been resurrected, you can now discard one of those cards. She's got 2 copies of Cloaked in Shadow, which is a 2 versatile. Immediately cancel all effect on your opponent's cards. But after combat, move Elektra up to 3 spaces. She's got 2 copies of Hands of Red, 4 attack. After combat, return a defeated hand to a space in Elektra's zone. 2 copies of Snake Root Clan. Immediately, Elektra may swap spaces with the hand. If she does, the hand is now the defender. So that's fun. She can sacrifice them if she needs to. The hand have 2 sets of cards. It's the only cards they specifically have. So 3 attack. The Fist. After combat, may deal 1 damage to your attacking fighter. If you do, return the card to your hand and gain 1 action. And then we have 2 copies of the Eni, which are ninjitsu. After combat, place your fighter in any space. I was trying to see if they had any extra rules in here or mention about what to do with minions. Yeah, otherwise, you guys just see if they had anything special. I just wanted to point out just in case someone hadn't played with them for a while. But basically, sidekicks are do just like everything else. They get a move around. Sure, it says heroes and sidekicks. Other fire are called sidekicks. This set, only Elektra has sidekicks. Born ninjas from the hand. Heroes and other sets have multiple sidekicks, single sidekicks, or no sidekicks at all. Each hero has a special ability noted on their cards. This card also lets your fighters tactically start healthy. Your heroes and other sidekicks. Fighters' health is tracked on separate dials. Spiders cannot gain health higher than the higher number. So again, the hand, they don't really mention in here, only has 0, but when you're using your actions and stuff to move around, so you have your 2 actions each turn, maneuver, attack, steam, and attack. You're going to use your minions to do the exact same stuff. Yeah. So basically, yeah, she just gets 4 other little guys to run around. That's very, very cool. Alright, then for our last character, we have Bullseye, whose official name has never been revealed. All as we know is to call him Lester, which might not even be his actual name. But his thing is he's an assassin, and he never misses is his motto. Which is why he's Bullseye. He's deadly with anything. You see him throwing playing cards here, but he throws daggers, rubble. You can pick up, he's picked up other weapons and stuff too, but typically it's him throwing stuff. I don't know why I cannot hang on to these guys. But yeah, that's his whole gimmick, is he can't miss his targets. And he's got his health dial, which is the same as the back of his card, except it doesn't have the eyeball in it. Alright, and what does Bullseye do for us? He is a ranged character. So we have 2 melee characters and a ranged character. So, kind of interesting on how you want to play in this. You have one just one melee character. You have one melee character that has some minions running around to help, and you have one ranged character. So if like Bullseye was taking on Elektra, he could at least throw stuff at the minions and try and sidekicks and try and take them out as well. Otherwise, you can just focus on one of the guys where Daredevil would have against Elektra have to bounce around the map trying to take them out or dodge them. So interesting. He has 14 health, so kind of in the middle of the 2 of them. Bullseye can attack from up to 5 spaces away, ignoring zones. In real life, he's quick and smart and nasty enough. The bad guys win. So he's got a pretty crazy attack range here. Bullseye is a ranged fighter, can attack other fighters in his zone as normal. He can also attack up to 5 spaces away from him, even if they're not in the same zone. When Bullseye attacks this way against a fighter who is not chasing him, it is considered a ranged attack. I like this, so yeah, he can attack. He doesn't just up his range. So yeah, he can basically be throwing stuff across the entire board. Should be pretty fun. But if you get right up next to him, he doesn't gain any bonuses or weaknesses for that. So he has 2 copies of World's Greatest Assassin for attack. Immediately, if you've already won combat this turn, ignore the value of your opponent's card. So there's like your second combat during that turn. You basically get a free hit on them. They can still play a card though, which is interesting, because the way they can play their card and they can still get the effect from it, they just don't get the defense value. 2 copies of I'm Better and I'll Prove It. All the different little things he could be throwing at you. Shurikens, sais, scissors, knives, forks, spoons, screwdrivers. Different style of knives and everything. It's kind of neat artwork. Versatile 2. During combat, if you've already won a combat this turn, this card has a value of 6 instead. So you're going to gain bonuses for winning combats. 4 copies of I Never Miss. 3 attack. During combat, you may boost this attack. If you don't boost this attack, draw a card. So if you don't feel like you need to boost it up, you can get an extra card for a next turn. 3 copies of Arrogant but Effective, a 2 versatile. After combat, you're considered to have won this combat. Move Bullseye up to 2 spaces. Oh, dang. So even if you don't win it, you're technically considered to have won it. 3 copies of For My Next Trick. 2 copies, or 2 attack. After combat, move Bullseye up to 1 space, draw a card, and gain an action. So I think he has some good movement in here. That's also fun. And some extra card draw, so it makes him pretty versatile. He's got 2 copies of Study the Target, breaking someone's jaw with a magnifying glass. Crazy. Draw 2 cards. If you won a combat this turn, draw an additional card and gain an action. 2 copies of, Right Between Their Eyes. 3 versatile. Immediately, if you've already won a combat this turn, your opponent discards a card. And we have 3 copies of Tactical Retreat. 3 defense. After combat, place Bullseye into spaces sharing no zones with his current space. Ooh, so I can get him across the board pretty quick. Depending on where you're at. Although it could even mean, like, you move 1 space away. So 2 copies of Feint, which again we see all the time. Immediately cancel all your opponent's card effects. 2 copies of Master Strategist. After combat, move Bullseye exactly 4 spaces. He may move through opposing fighters. Then we have 3 copies of Ricochet. 3 versatile. After combat, if the opposing fighter was not defeated, deal 1 damage to a fighter in the opposing fighter's zone. That could be very fun if you're playing maybe like a 2v2 game, because you also hit the other guy. And then his last 2 cards are I Planned to Be Here, a 2 attack. During combat, if you started your turn in this current space, the value of this card is 5 instead. So if you didn't move around, and you're kind of already strategically moved, you can go ahead and attack. So that's pretty fun as well. Yes, it's kind of an interesting character, because he's relying on a lot of stuff where he has to win combat, and then he takes advantage of winning combat. Elektra's all about, if she dies, it's not a big deal, because she's just going to get stronger. So she can be a little bit more reckless to begin with, take some extra damage, take some extra hits, or throw her foot ninjas in the way to take damage. If she dies, she just gets stronger. And then Daredevil is just all about, he's going to risk some of his future cards to get even stronger. So basically, he might get a little boost, he might get a big boost, but he's sacrificing potentially what his next cards might be, which might have been, is a 1 boost for that attack, better than drawing that card that would have been more helpful for what it actually does. It's just kind of a gamble on what he does. Alright, then the last thing we have for this video is the battlefield items. I'm going to back up just a tad here. And so if you're not familiar with how battlefield items work, so it has 6 battlefield item tokens, 3 schemes, and 3 combat items. Placed at the beginning of the game and random tokens on the board. So basically what it means, if you can use a scheme item while one of your fighters on a space with that token, resolve all effects, return it to the box. Counts as one of your actions, but now does not count as playing a scheme. A combat item may be used when your fighter plays a combat card, for example, attack, defense, or versatile, on a space of the combat item. When you play a combat card, take the token and place it next to your card. If you're attacking, choose whether to use the token before or after your opponent. Choose whether to use your token before your opponent decides whether they're playing a defense card. So if you add it to your card beforehand, it can give up extra value to your card. Extra attack. The card you play gains the following during combat. The value of this card is increased by the value on the token. So like this one will give you +2 attack. If you have a card during a combat effect, if your card has a during combat effect, choose to resolve the order of the card and the token's effect. The effect may be cancelled like a card and return the token to the box. So if you're playing defense, you have to be on, you could pick it up and you could use it to up your defense. If you're doing an attack, though, you have to declare whether you're using it before your opponent plays a defense, so they know if your attack was already 2, if it's going to potentially be 4 now, just so they know ahead of time. But what happens, though, is if you opt to use it, if you have a during combat that might say, do this thing first, then you have to do that option first, then gain the +2, or you can gain the +2, then do the other one. And if your opponent chances it, if it says, they have to cancel the entire card, they might not cancel everything. Sorry, what do we have on here? We have for our Steam ones, I can zoom back down in here quick. And what's really fun is because each of the marble sets comes with 6 of these tokens, 3 of each. And the more marble sets you buy, you can mix and match each one. And then now, how would you, if you wanted to use this with other Unmatched, I would say just find different zones to place each one, just kind of space them out a little bit. You could definitely use these in other modes as well if you wanted to. So we have a medical box, it's a first aid kit, and we have a payphone. So the first aid kit says recover 2 health and draw a card. And the payphone says choose 1 card in your discard pile and return it to your hand. So those are very, very fun extra little bonus effects you can do. We have a map and a manhole cover. So actually it's called the map, and it's just, is it called the manhole cover? It is. So the map, your next attack turn can target any space. And the manhole cover gets +2. And the last 2 are the fire hydrant and the post box. Gives you +2. And the mailbox gives a +1. So very fun little extra mechanics. It'd be kind of cool if they released like a pack of these for some of the other Unmatched sets. So if you're playing in like, using like the Robin Hood or the King Arthur set, you might have stuff that might fit more thematically into that time. Like, oh, instead of like a mailbox or a fire hydrant, it might be like a wagon wheel or a like powder keg or something you could like set off and throw at somebody, or some different stuff like that might be kind of neat. Sack of gold gives you an extra point. You know, again, you're jumping into like the Jurassic Park world, they could have something in there, or the Buffy universe. That'd be kind of fun. But you know, it's what it is. Alright, so that's what we have for our Unmatched video for Hell's Kitchen. Hope you guys enjoy it. Check out the other Unmatched videos. I am slowly trying to pick up all the different sets, but I'm a little bit behind on all of them. See you guys later. Bye.